Hi everyone, my name is Pamela Nuri, Head of Expedition Operations at Noble Caledonia, and we have with us today on our Captain Chat, Captain Henrik Karlsson, all the way over from the Åland Islands, there between Sweden and Finland. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's a grey day for a change. We have normally, as you know, very sunny summers here. But it's nice to have a little bit, maybe even some rain today. But because we would need that. Otherwise, we've had a wonderful summer up here, and I've been at home since early June now, and enjoyed myself very much out on the water, doing the garden, having just a nice time.
That's so lovely, and thanks so much for chatting to us from home. We almost don't recognize you without your stripes, you know.
Well, it's nice to be a little bit more relaxed now.
Absolutely. So Captain Karlsson has been with the fleet for 8 years, but he's been a captain for 30 years. And Captain, I know you have had one of the most interesting careers and sort of taken advantage of everything that being a captain could offer you. I know you've weaved between the lovely vessels, the Sea Cloud that we also charter, which is a big, beautiful sailboat. I'd love to hear about that. And also done some stints at home as director of the Maritime Museum there in the Åland Islands. So you've really lived a good career as a captain, and I'd love you to tell us a bit more about all those adventures and decisions that took you in all those different directions.
Well, yes, I've gone with the flow a little bit, and I was first, I was working with cargo ships and was working on reefers and cargo vessels in the winter time. And at home, I was sailing with the traditional boats and schooners here, and my hobby with the schooners became my job, and then the schooners got bigger and bigger, and at some stage I saw the Sea Cloud back in Portugal many years ago. This was back in the late 70s. I saw the Sea Cloud, and I decided one day I'm going to work on that vessel. And then I was working on the schooners, and I got the opportunity to sign on as second mate and then chief officer on the old Sea Cloud. But they wouldn't. Captain Cassidy, my mentor on the old Sea Cloud, he wanted me to relieve him there. But the owners then thought I was too young and didn't have the Navy background and so on. So I went somewhere else, and at that stage I got that job on the Maritime Museum as well, and stayed there for a few years until got fed up with the bureaucracy, and at the same time I used to go sailing on my time off. I always kept contact with the ships, and then of course I went back to the Sea Cloud, and then I got the promotion later. Back in could it have been just 2000 or something like that, 2001 maybe, and then I spent a few years there until they called me from the Maritime Academy here in Mariehamn, and needed a vice rector, vice rector, I should say, and then I was at that time negotiating about my salary on the Sea Cloud too, where I was captain then, and they simply gave me an offer I couldn't refuse at the academy. So I spent 5 years at the academy, mostly putting out fires among the staff there, running around and having a lot of bureaucracy. So it was kind of a relief when the Island Sky visited my hometown, and Captain Dan was on board. So I visited on board and really liked what I saw. So half a year later, I was captain on the Island Sky down in Chile, where you were as well.
Yeah. So it seems you've always been with these classic, iconic, beautiful vessels. I know the Skies, I certainly think of them as these, classic vessels. And Sea Cloud, I mean, is such a beauty as well. What's it like actually captaining on the Sea Cloud? Do you sail, is it quite hands-on sailing, or is it sort of all automated?
No, it's hands-on. It's very traditional, and that's what I really liked from the beginning on the old Sea Cloud, where I started there back in the early 90s, and I mean, the old Sea Cloud is a very famous vessel. Everybody in America knows about her because she was the world's largest sailing yacht in her day, and Marjorie Merriweather Post, who was her owner, certainly made sure that she became famous. And Mrs. Post was at some time married to the American ambassador to the Soviet Union. So they were having negotiations at Yalta, and they were also up here in the Baltic back in the time. That must have been just before World War II. And then, of course, she was sailing for various owners until she became laid up in Panama. And there was a German captain who saw her when he was working on his container vessel, and got a team together and bought her and converted her into a passenger vessel. And that was back in the late 80s. And yeah, like I said, we first visited, no, it was late 70s, because 79 in October, I visited the Sea Cloud the first time when I was in Portugal. So yeah, a fantastic ship.
Yeah.
I have a half model behind me here in the background, which a carpenter
yes.
on board. Yeah.
So now I know, I mean, we've certainly sailed half the world together. What comes to mind if I were to ask you, where are your favorite areas, or one favorite or two favorite areas in the world to cruise, given that you specialize in these small boats and classic ships that take you to more interesting places?
You know, Pam, I get this question I get quite often, and I always say it depends on my mood when I get the question, because of course I love the Baltic Sea and this area here around the islands and the Baltic countries since they opened up. You know, they were close to us when I grew up, but it's a fantastic area in the summer, and with a lot of nature and culture as well, as I like very much. And then of course the Aeolian Islands in Italy and in Sicily, and those small ports in southern Italy are great, and of course you know, Seychelles, Maldives, you name it. I mean, it's hard to name a favorite really. And of course, when you start going to Antarctica, you get hooked on that as well. So it is.
It's so true.
I haven't been to Greenland on a ship. I've been there a couple of times, but never been cruising there. Not Greenland and not even Svalbard, because that's the time of year when I want to be at home, of course. And I prefer this. I prefer being at home than being at work still.
Yeah, it's so true what you say. It often seems like the area that you're currently working in is your favorite area, because you always sort of get kind of immersed and attached and invested in the people and the places when you're working in an area. So that often is the answer at the time, is wherever you're working. So I have to say, I thought you were going to say the Caribbean, because I know that's where you've done work both on the Sea Cloud and the Skies. And we've had some funny experiences. I wanted to mention one of them. And, you know, I think it sort of speaks to that the sea is still not as organized as of course, maybe we are, let's just say. But do you remember when we were off Los Testigos, and they'd given us permission, they'd told us where to anchor, they'd come on board. And then all of a sudden, this warship pops up around the corner and tells us to leave now or we're going to be arrested. And I mean, we were chatting to, I think it was the Coast Guard, you know, in the bridge, and everything seemed hunky-dory. And then this guy got a phone call, and we just had to like wrap up and leave. And all the passengers were sitting there, lathered up in sunblock with their hats and sunglasses in the lounge, ready to disembark. And they just said, you need to lift the anchor and leave. And we were like, oh, you know, and I mean, these things still happen out there. There is a lot of adventure and uncertainty in a sense to be had.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it vividly because the officer there who was on board, he was pretty clear in his explanation that if we don't heave anchor and go, then they will escort us to a safe haven somewhere in Venezuela, and that's when we decided, no, let's pick up and go, because you never know what the future will look like otherwise. And I didn't want to end up in a Venezuelan prison either.
No,
but
exactly.
We had some beautiful cruises in the Caribbean, and of course, at times I miss some of the islands, and I have great friends on some of the islands that I've learned to know through the years. So of course, that's also a nice area to go.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the last question I wanted to ask you: the skies are such happy ships. All of them, when you go on board, generally you just get this warm, homely, happy feeling. And I've always felt, though, that very much comes down from the captain. The captain sets the atmosphere amongst his officers, and then it passes down to their heads of departments and their subordinates and so on. And you almost always get that feeling when you come on the skies, that warm, happy, homely environment. And it's not the case on every ship I've ever been on. I've worked on 13 different expedition ships, and I've always felt that way on the skies. Do you want to speak a bit to that feeling that, I mean, I do think it comes from the captain down, and how, you know, you keep that sense of happy, homely environment there alive, and how important it is to everyone's welfare?
Well, I mean, partly it's because of the continuity and that we have so many loyal crew that keep returning and want to come back to our ships, and so I mean, it is like a family, really. When you get back on board, it is really nice to see everybody that you have sailed with before, and I mean, of course, people, they tell each other how the style is, if you say, and I mean, I've always enjoyed working together with a good team on the bridge, and to keep an open atmosphere, and sometimes also, I mean, I call it management by walking around. You know, I get to know everybody, and of course, it makes my job much easier if we have, I mean, we have on those small ships, you know everybody, and you can have the social control, because you see that people don't misbehave, or if anybody starts misbehaving, you might be able to stop it before it sort of escalates.
Yeah.
And of course, the atmosphere on board is so important to have happy passengers as well. Like I said, it makes my job much easier to have a happy ship than to have difficult times, so to say. But and I mean, that's the way traditionally from these islands, you know, where I grew up, and my ancestors were sailors, and knew when they went out sailing on the smaller ships. Of course, they had crew from the same village and from the area, so you can't just treat people badly, because that will bite you in the back later in that case. So yeah. It's the way, I think it's quite important to treat people well, and you get treated well in return, of course.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, from my side, when you are the captain, it's a particularly open, friendly environment, and you are around a lot. You know, you're around in the passenger and the crew areas. You're seen a lot, and you've got this very lovely father-like, if you don't mind me saying, presence that sort of is, I think, quite comforting to everyone. So it's certainly always a pleasure to work with you, and I think I can thank you for all of our side at Noble and the passengers, that you do create such a lovely atmosphere on board.
Well, thank you, Pam. But I mean, it's not a one-man show, I should say. and that I always point out as well. Of course, it's a great team effort to keep the show running and to make it look like it's easy, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time there from home in the Åland Islands. If people want to pop up there and visit the Maritime Museum, it's that boat as well on the water there in your town.
Yeah, we have the museum ship Pommern, the only one in the world saved in its original state, and now she has been installed in a beautiful dry dock. She's still floating, but it made it much safer for her to stay there. So it's a great museum together with the Pommern, and it was elected Museum of the Year in Europe 2 years ago, I think it was now. So it's one of the finest museums in the world, really. And it was expanded after I left, because that's one of the reasons why I left, because the expansion of the museum didn't happen when I was there. So, but now it has been made bigger and better, and it's a great team there at the museum. So
yeah.
If you get there, of course, ask for me, and they will know where I am if I'm at home or at sea or so on. So they can.
Sounds like an excellent. I've been to that museum when the boat was still in the water, and it really is. It's really fantastic. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be some old friends from the sea coming up your way over the coming years, and hopefully we find you there, if not at sea. Thank you so much, Captain Karlsson, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Pam. It was nice chatting with you, and nice. I wish everybody a continued nice summer, as long as that lasts, and then we'll see how it's going next time. We'll meet somewhere, somewhen.
Cool. All right. Cheers.
Thank you.